Open LinkedIn lately and it feels less like a professional network and more like a layoff support group. Tech workers, bankers, retail staff, even people who make those "we're a family here" corporate posters. Everyone seems to be getting hit. Across Canada and the USA, companies are cutting jobs in big numbers. And if you're a young worker, a recent grad, it seems extra brutal for you. So what's exactly going on here? Is it just the market doing its thing, the job market? Is it the AI? Is it the boomers? Or is it just vibes these days? In this video, we're going to break down why companies are laying off workers in record numbers with a mix of facts, stats, and just enough humor so we don't all cry into our resumes. If you've been laid off, you're just job hunting, or you just want to understand the chaos, stick around. And hey, a like and subscribe costs much less than your last latte. It's actually free, so please do hit that thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. First, let's start off with the big picture, the macroeconomy, the part nobody wants to think about until it ruins everything. After the COVID-19 scare, the lockdowns, the virus spreading, governments pumped a ton of money into the economy. Consequently, demand for goods surged and services also. Supply chains broke and boom, inflation was rampant. So to fight that inflation, central banks in both Canada and the USA did one thing they know how to do: raise interest rates a lot and very quickly. Take for example, in my home of Canada, the Bank of Canada hiked its key interest rates about 10 times between 2022 and 2023 at historically unprecedented rates of increases, or rather the number of increases, to cool spending. And higher rates meant it got more expensive for businesses to borrow, to expand, to hire, and also for households and families that had debt with interest, the most common and big one being mortgages. The Bank of Canada itself said that with higher rates, spending had cooled, businesses have scaled back hiring, and it's getting harder to find a job, especially for younger workers and newcomers. In the USA, there's a similar grim picture. As growth slows and recession fears pop up every 3 weeks or so on CNBC and other news, companies started asking, do we really need all these humans? When in doubt, big firms do what they always do: they cut costs, which usually means, jobs. Now let's talk a bit about the overhiring, especially in tech, in the past few years. During the pandemic, everyone thought that digital-inspired innovation and growth would go to the moon forever. Some probably thought it would take us to the moon and start colonizing there and building a whole civilization. Alas, we're still here on Earth. So companies, especially those tech companies, hired like crazy, learned to code, they said. Tech is the future-proof, recession-proof, they said. Then 2024, sometime there hit and reality checked in. In the 2023 alone, tens of thousands of tech workers were laid off. By mid-2024, global tech layoffs were estimated at over 260,000 jobs since January of that year, driven by economic challenges, high interest rates, and what analysts literally described as COVID-19 era job correction. Basically, those tech CEOs and C-suite execs turned around and said, listen, we hired too many people when money was cheap and demand looked infinite. Now our investors are nervous and someone has to pay. Spoiler, it's not the investors. So as a coder, a software engineer, a PM, whatever, even if you're smart, capable, and hardworking, you're running into a wall called we staffed up too fast and now we're panicking. Next up is the big villain of 2025, the AI. Now, AI probably literally isn't stealing every job, but it is changing how companies think about staffing, especially for junior and entry-level roles. In the USA, throughout 2025, net layoffs announced past 1 million jobs by this fall, with analysts noting that AI was directly correlated with tens of thousands of job cuts. Industries particularly hit by this include tech, warehousing, retail, media, and even nonprofit. Goldman Sachs recently pointed out that unemployment among 20 to 30-year-olds in tech-exposed sectors has risen nearly 3 percentage points since early 2024, much faster than for other workers. And if you're a recent grad, the picture unfortunately does not get any better. For example, our New York Fed analysis found that unemployment for degree holders aged 22 to 27 was around 5.8% higher than the overall jobless rate, with underemployment, which is where your qualifications does not fit the role you're in, being above 40%. In plain English, lots of grads are either jobless or working in roles that did not need that degree to begin with. Why? Well, part of the reason is that AI, automation, software, etc. are actually quite good, or getting quite good, at exactly the kind of repetitive entry-level tasks that used to justify hiring a lot of juniors and interns and young grads. You need research, summaries, first draft reports. There's an app for that now. And some execs are thinking, why hire a full team of juniors when we can hire fewer people plus some software licenses? Is it short-sighted? Probably. Will they realize in a few years when there's no one left to promote because they never hired juniors? Also probably. But right now you're stuck in that rough transition phase of chaos and disruption. Another big reason for the layoffs is actually optics, and not many people talk about this. Wall Street and Bay Street operate on one thing, and they love one thing, that's profits. If growth slows and profits lag, CEOs know that nothing says we're serious about efficiency like a round of friggin' layoffs. In the USA, a major layoff tracking firm recently reported that cost cutting is the number one reason companies give for job cuts, ahead of things like restructuring or bankruptcies. Even when companies are profitable, they feel, or the leadership feels, they're not profitable enough, so trimming staff becomes sort of an expected performance art that they're required to do and show the world. They say we're committed to shareholder value, meaning they've basically fired people and cut jobs. And if you're early in your career, that can feel incredibly unfair. You did not do anything wrong. You're just a line item on a spreadsheet getting optimized, unfortunately. So let's zoom back into Canada for a second. Even though Canada has, and believe it or not, one of the highest employment rates in the G7, the labor market has clearly cooled. A federal report notes that employment rate dipped slightly as the working age population surged, thanks mainly to immigration. And the result is, you already know from those headlines and docus and whatnot, more people looking for work plus slower hiring equals harder job searches, especially for the young. The Bank of Canada was outright in saying that higher interest rates have caused businesses to scale back hiring, and it's getting harder to find those new jobs, particularly for younger workers and newcomers. Research from multiple think tanks in Canada points out that youth unemployment has hit multi-year highs in some provinces, with Ontario being one of the standouts, as more young people, including international students, compete for fewer openings in a weaker economy. So if you're in Canada, feel like job hunting turned into a full-time job with no pay, you're not imagining it, the math really did get worse. Okay, cool, so everything's on fire. What now? Let's talk about a very few practical takeaways if you're a young adult in Canada or USA dealing with layoffs and a rough market right now. First, do not, and I repeat, do not internalize macroeconomic chaos as a personal failure. You're competing in an environment shaped by interest rates, investor pressure, overhiring hangovers, and AI hype. That's way bigger than your resume font choice. Yes, you can improve your skills and your application, but if it's taking longer, it's not because you're uniquely broken. Second, widen your job search. If you've been only applying to FANG-level tech roles or shiny global strategy analyst position, it might be time to open things up. Make sure to look at all types of mid-sized companies, B2B, business-to-business firms that you have never heard of, government and public sector roles, sectors like healthcare, green energy, supply chain, local services, even nonprofits, you name it. They might not all be your dream jobs, but they can be launch pads. Third, think about the skills that AI really struggles with. Yes, learn tools and tech, that's helpful, but also invest in communication and storytelling, relationship building, project management, domain expertise in a very niche specific industry or role. AI is great as a text calculator predicting the next word. It's less great at understanding messy human organizations and getting people to actually do things effectively. Fourth, network, but don't be weird about it. Most jobs still come from some mix of referrals and weak ties. That does not mean, "Hi sir, I want jobs DM." It means comment thoughtfully on people's posts online, join industry events or online meetups if you can, ask for 15-minute chats to learn, not just to beg for openings, stay in touch with former classmates and coworkers. See, you're just not looking for a job, you're building a little ecosystem of people who know that you exist and you have particular skills. Finally, protect your brain. What that means is protect your mental health and well-being. Being laid off or stuck in a job search, it really sucks and it can mess with your sense of self. It's exhausting seeing we went with another candidate or those regret emails 27 times in a row. So sometimes you have to set healthy boundaries like limiting job search hours per day, taking breaks without guilt on some days or some portion of the days, talking to friends, mentors, or professionals if you can. Remember that your self-worth is not measured by that latest email from some HR. So yeah, it's true. Companies in Canada and the USA are laying off people for a mix of reasons: high interest rates, over hiring, cost-cutting, AI hype, investor pressure, and the labor market that's shifting faster than our universities can update their brochures. If you're in the middle of it, I will not lie to you. It's tough. It's a tough environment, but tough does not mean hopeless. People do get rehired, sometimes later after internships and volunteer gigs. Careers do zigzag, and sometimes the job you land after a layoff is actually a better fit than the one that you lost. If this video helped you understand what's going on, or at least made you feel a little bit less alone, do me a favor, hit that like button, drop a comment about your experience or questions, and of course, most importantly, make sure to subscribe. It's free and it keeps small-time creators like myself going and motivated. So yeah, if you've been laid off recently or some time ago, take a deep breath. It's not game over. It's just the world being weird. Again, yours truly, Tahmid, signing out.